Danny's Boxing Nation opened with his usual rhythm and energy, giving fans an update on the recent atmosphere surrounding Canelo Alvarez. He explained that while the previous weekend had not provided much good news for Canelo or his supporters, there was at least one silver lining, a small comfort for those who were hoping for a better outcome. According to Dante, out of all the boxing world, there seemed to be only a single person who actually believed Canelo Alvarez had won his fight. This individual made it clear, stating directly to Canelo, "I may be the only one, but I thought you won. I scored the fight for you." Despite this support, the reality was obvious, and Canelo himself appeared to acknowledge it. He admitted, "We need to accept it. No matter what the scorecard says, we lost." This moment set the stage for what has become a central talking point in Canelo's career: the struggle to maintain dominance and the increasing difficulty in justifying losses that are piling up against him. The conversation shifted toward Terence Crawford, who has been widely recognized as one of the most technically brilliant fighters in the world. Crawford's name surfaced when a question was asked about sparring him. The fighter who had faced him responded with respect, saying, "Crawford is pretty good. He is almost the best boxer in the world." Even with that admiration, he added with confidence that he believed Canelo Alvarez would knock Crawford out, especially if the weight divisions were adjusted in Canelo's favor. The discussion turned into weight classes, mentioning 147 pounds and 154 pounds as potential stages, but the response was that Canelo at 160 pounds and above becomes an entirely different kind of fighter. His skill, power, and presence were described as being on a higher level. They talked about Crawford's style, the way he switches from orthodox to southpaw, and the effectiveness of his body work. Yet the fighter insisted that while Crawford's technique was strong, his punches were not especially hard, emphasizing instead that Canelo's mastery, particularly his body strength and ability to endure, set him apart. He explained further that Canelo's greatness came not only from technical skill, but also from his physical resilience and composure in the ring. The person added that his own time sparring had been limited, saying he was only at the UFC training center for a week before leaving to prepare for his own fight. The idea was clear: he was no sparring partner, but a fighter focused on his own rising career. Even as Crawford continued training in Colorado, this fighter made it known that his time was better spent getting ready for his own upcoming bout rather than traveling further. The respect for Crawford was there, but so was the reminder that he himself was no ordinary partner brought in for practice. Dante then circled back to Canelo's situation, emphasizing what he called good news, but also an inevitable truth. The good news, in his framing, was that Canelo Alvarez no longer had to bear the suffocating pressure of protecting an untouchable record or trying to maintain the illusion of invincibility. The reason was simple: he had already suffered the most humiliating defeat of his career, losing decisively to a fighter who had jumped up 3 entire weight classes. That kind of loss, Dante argued, strips away the excuses, because at this point Canelo had already lost to so many different styles in so many different ways that fans and supporters were running out of rationalizations. Mexican fans and others who had long defended him no longer had a list of excuses ready to deploy. Dante pointed out a common pattern in boxing history. Once a fighter loses the most important fights of their career, once they reach that point of disappointment, they essentially have less to lose going forward. When the aura of invincibility is gone, when the manufactured image of an unbeatable champion collapses, that is often when fighters begin taking on stronger competition. They do it because they no longer need to protect something fragile. With the pressure gone, they are willing to roll the dice more freely. Dante gave the example of Manny Pacquiao. After Pacquiao lost the defining fight of his career against Floyd Mayweather, the Filipino legend seemed liberated in a sense. Pacquiao could never erase that loss to Mayweather, but instead of hiding from it, he pursued other great challenges. He took on top welterweights like Keith Thurman, and even prepared to face Errol Spence before Spence's injury forced a cancellation. Pacquiao became more daring, more willing to step into danger, because his reputation was already sealed and his losses no longer carried the same weight. The story of Roberto Duran provided another case study. After Sugar Ray Leonard forced him to quit in the infamous No Mas fight, Duran hit rock bottom. The shame of not just losing but surrendering in the ring drove him to redeem himself. He chased every challenge he could, determined to bury that memory beneath new victories. He knew that he could never erase the humiliation, but he could at least replace the image of quitting with something braver. For both Pacquiao and Duran, the lowest moments of their careers became springboards into new eras where they faced even tougher competition. They were fueled by pride, by the need to alter the narrative, and to fight back against the idea that they had been overrated. Dante argued that Canelo Alvarez now finds himself in exactly the same place. He has hit that point where excuses cannot cover up his setbacks. Losing to a man who climbed 3 weight divisions to face him was as embarrassing as it was decisive. Now the challenge is what comes next. A fighter with Canelo's pride cannot simply fade out fighting lesser opponents like John Ryder or Edgar Berlanga. The public would never accept it. Instead, the expectation is that he must now face real, dangerous threats if he wants to salvage his legacy. Dante explained that this is why Canelo's current contract with Turki Alalshikh carries so much importance. Canelo still owes Turki 2 more fights, and according to Dante, those fights are likely to be against very difficult opponents. The most likely candidate, he predicted, would be Hamzah Sheeraz. The reasons for this are not only stylistic, but also deeply personal for Turki. Sheeraz is Arabic, he is Muslim, and he has built a close relationship with Turki Alalshikh. For Turki and the wider Muslim world, a victory by Sheeraz over Canelo Alvarez would be monumental. It would be a source of pride, statement of dominance, and a symbolic triumph on a global scale. Dante emphasized that Sheeraz's style would also be a nightmare for Canelo. His reach, his height, and his mastery of distance would be extremely difficult for the Mexican star to overcome. Dante confidently stated that he could not envision a scenario in which Canelo defeated Sheeraz. He mentioned that after Sheeraz knocked out Berlanga, Turki himself immediately declared that Sheeraz deserved a fight with Canelo in 2026, regardless of whether Canelo defeated Terence Crawford or not. That declaration revealed Turki's intentions. He wanted Sheeraz in the ring with Canelo, win or lose, and he had the influence to make it happen. Beyond Sheeraz, Dante also pointed to other possibilities. One was the winner of the rematch between Christian Nabili and Lester Martinez. That bout was scheduled, and whoever emerged victorious would be in prime position to demand a shot at Canelo. Again, Dante stressed that whether or not Canelo personally desired these fights, Turki Alalshikh would ensure that pressure was applied. Turki was not interested in seeing Canelo face easy opponents anymore. The days of cherry-picking were over. Dante insisted that the combination of Canelo's recent humiliation and Turki's determination would force him into the toughest stretch of fights in his career. The stakes would be high. Another loss or two would put Canelo further down in the history books, but victories in such matchups could partially repair his image and re-establish him as a fighter willing to fight anyone. As Dante wound down his breakdown, he made his central point clear. Canelo Alvarez, like Pacquiao and Duran before him, has reached a crossroads where his pride and his legacy intersect. The humiliations have already arrived, the excuses have been exhausted, and now the only way forward is through real, dangerous opponents. Whether Canelo wants it or not, Turki will make sure the next 2 fights are against high-risk, high-reward challengers. Dante concluded that he personally believed Hamzah Sheeraz would be the man to defeat Canelo, given his youth, style, and physical advantages. But even if it wasn't Sheeraz, there were multiple names waiting in line who would provide no easy road. Canelo's days of manufactured control over matchmaking were essentially finished. The public, Turki, and his own pride would all demand more. At the end of the segment, Dante transitioned smoothly into his sponsor messages, speaking about products like Load Face and Body Oil, a solution for burns, scars, dark spots, and inflammation, which athletes and boxers alike use after training to ease pain and swelling. He then introduced Issa Israel Law Firm, a legal practice based in Denver, Colorado. He explained that the firm was fully engaged in the world of combat sports and high-altitude training. Fighters inside and outside the ring could turn to them for trusted representation, whether in business, civil issues, or matters of trademarking and immigration. Dante reminded viewers that he had personally relied on this firm for legal guidance through various challenges, vouching for their credibility and commitment. The firm's services were especially available in Colorado, but extended globally in matters like business names, logos, and immigration work. Dante gave this endorsement as he always does, blending it into the close of his segment. He then signed off with his trademark line, reminding his audience that he would be moving on to the next story, leaving viewers with the knowledge that Canelo Alvarez's career had entered its most uncertain yet potentially transformative stage.